Get in there.
Spider-Man No Way Home is an effort from Sony and Disney to weaponize nostalgia on a level never seen before by having Peter Parker turn to the supreme sorcerer Doctor Strange to solve his problems with magic, a move that accidentally zaps in all your favorite Spider-Man villains from the past. And your least favorite as well, which the movie seems to know.
Where's Connors? He wants to stay in the truck. Okay.
And as you may have guessed, it worked incredibly well. Not only did No Way Home make all the money at the box office, but it also lived up to insane fan expectations and satisfied pretty much everyone at a time when people are desperately looking for things to vent their frustrations at. But even though there are a number of different positive angles to cover this movie from, I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to finally satisfy my Tobey Maguire superfan and examine No Way Home in relation to Spider-Man 3, because they share a lot in common. And I don't mean the superficial stuff like, oh, it has same characters, and oh, Green Goblin's manipulation is once again driving things, and oh, the finale takes place at a tall construction site. What I mean is the fact that some of the biggest core issues that led to Spider-Man 3's downfall, No Way Home also runs into. It has an excess of different subplots and stuff happening which should make it an aimless mess.
Hey, Parker.
It adds in a huge cast of quote-unquote new characters that it doesn't have time to properly develop.
My daughter.
And it's also the third movie after a fantastic second one, which creates the danger of simply losing steam.
I like Bernstein's. It's better.
All these things were a major part of Spider-Man 3's destruction, and yet No Way Home still somehow makes them work. And look, obviously Spider-Man 3 might shine more in other aspects. I'm not saying it doesn't, because I value my life. It features some Oscar-worthy method acting performances we rarely get in this genre.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
It explores some really deep philosophical questions about life and love.
You say you're a good woman, I'm good man.
And overall, it's not afraid to go to some really dark places that no other comic book movies dare to go, like having the superhero be violent toward his girlfriend.
See you, chump.
But anyway, just in terms of the core pitfalls I mentioned, here's how No Way Home makes them work and succeeds where Spider-Man 3 failed, and what you need to learn to do it too. Oh, and before I forget, I do wanna no joke give a shout out to the Spider-Man 3 Filmento superfan for the idea for this video. But since that's not really worth anything, I got you a display as well, this high quality metal sheet poster.
Give me rent.
So for your endless tenacity, I'll send it to you for free. I also got a few more designs to give away to others as well, from Marvel to DC to Baby Yoda to something I'm keeping for myself. So I'll pick out a few comments giving more video ideas and I'll send these out.
If you want the shots, I'll take the staff job.
And to not make anybody feel bad, I also got Display to sponsor another special 1-week Filmento discount of 25 to 35% off everything on their site. So check them out because they have an infinite amount of awesome designs from movies to games to whatever, with a growing list of official big name partners. All the designs are printed on metal, which makes them really high quality and easy to hang up and swap out in seconds. Just put a magnet with a protective leaf on the wall and there you go.
Great.
So yeah, the discount is once again for 1 week, so check it out with the link below and maybe you'll find something cool. Anyway, this is for you, my friend, whether you're pleased about the angle I'm taking or not. The first key issue with Spider-Man 3 is the aimless excess of different events and subplots. You know, at first we're kinda just living life while all the plotlines begin on their own on the side, until the Goblin one takes over for 2 seconds.
See you, chump.
Then we're again just living life, doing whatever different random stuff without a larger purpose, until we find out that Sandman killed Uncle Ben, which too is immediately then just over.
See you, chump.
Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. This isn't a united story as much as it is a collection of disjointed individual instances. And the way No Way Home makes excess work is by combining all of it under the roof of all-encompassing major problems. So when the movie begins, it immediately creates a problem of, Mysterio from the previous movie left one last middle finger by doxing Spider-Man's identity.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker.
And that's what all the scenes in the first act revolve around, regardless of what we're actually doing in them. At first, we have to deal with the criminal charges that Mysterio's actions created and avoid jail. Then we have to deal with being cancelled by half the population and the personal consequences of it on Peter and his relationships, like when he and his friends get excluded from college just because of their known ties to Spider-Man.
In light of recent controversy, we are unable to consider your...
Then we go to Doctor Strange to try and fix things by using magic to make the whole world forget Spider-Man's identity, and when that fails, we try to fix things by convincing this college lady to reconsider Peter's friend's applications. And then we're suddenly fighting Doc Ock from the Tobeyverse. At this point, we should feel as directionlessly all over the place as in Spider-Man 3, because we go from federal criminal charges to school troubles to magic to Doc Ock. But the reason we don't feel directionless is because we have a direction, that same major problem. We're not fighting Doc Ock as a separate thing, we're fighting him specifically in the context of saving the college lady so that she'll help us fix what was broken. We're still progressing things under that same roof. No matter if the scenes themselves are about internal or external or whatever things.
I didn't know you guys broke up. I thought you were in love, mate.
They're all still united by this one larger problem until the problem, at least for the moment, is handled.
I am going to talk to them about your friends and you. And if you keep your noses clean, maybe you'll have a fair shot.
And then the movie immediately sets up the next uniting problem, which is the fact that the failed spell pulled in multiple supervillains from other franchise dimensions. When we're exploring character relationships, it's around that.
So sorry for dragging you into this. Listen, you just gotta help me find these guys.
You don't have to apologize, okay? You got us a second shot at MIT.
When we're geeking out about magic and utilizing nostalgia, it's around that.
It can't be him, because Norman Osborn died years ago.
You know, when we head out to find the Goblin and then suddenly end up fighting Electro with Sandman instead.
What the hell is going on?
I'll explain everything, but first can you help me stop this guy?
It doesn't matter, because it still revolves around that same larger problem of there being multiple supervillains we have to find. It's still part of the same essential purpose.
Oh, great, you caught another.
It's okay.
Whereas the next major problem is the fact that if we just send the villains back, they die. That's why we're suddenly fighting Doctor Strange in a weird magic world, to not let him send the villains to death. That's why we bring the villains home, where we kinda just nostalgically hang out with them, to fix their deadly issues before they get sent back. Same roof.
It's so quiet.
And same thing with the next problem of the villains turning on us. When we're suddenly just cracking jokes with Tobey and Andrew in some grandma's kitchen, it's fine, because we know that their presence is crucial to help Peter to solve this new issue. Despite all the crazy different things that happen here,
You can't do that, huh?
No?
How on earth does that...
they exist to serve that same connecting larger thing above them.
Gotta cure all of them.
And the reason that's important is because Spider-Man 3, for example, is at its best in those combined sections, like when it makes the Venom plotline part of the bigger problem of Uncle Ben's killer still being out there. Now Venom fuels Tobey's rage towards Sandman. Now two things unite to become one, and it's really good.
Remember Ben Parker? The old man you shot down in cold blood?
What does it matter to you anyway?
Everything!
But then the Sandman problem is immediately tossed aside, and that's it.
Good riddance.
There's nothing else on the same level to take its place, which means that everything, again, is aimlessly separate.
Because when the Venom plotline, for example, joins with the Harry plotline for 2 minutes and is then left by itself, it's not strong enough to be a real larger problem that Peter has to actively worry about and try to solve.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
So the point is to think of your movie as a never-ending series of major problems that unite everything below them. That's how you can combine multiple smaller things to serve the same larger purpose. That's how you can combine multiple movies into one. The second key issue in Spider-Man 3 is the over-addition of new characters to the point where there's no time to properly build them. Sandman is presented as this loving father who wants to save his daughter, but then there's like one scene with the daughter where all that is simply stated out loud.
Miss you.
I miss you too, Daddy.
Like, there's not much depth here. Couldn't you at least showcase the negative effects that the daughter's illness carries? Eddie Brock wants Tobey dead just because he shows that his clearly fake picture is clearly fake.
Photographic department confirms it.
Like, couldn't you at least establish an actual relationship between Eddie and Gwen and show how Tobey destroys that? Cause I don't have enough here to care.
Do you remember what you did to me? You made me lose my girl.
We had coffee, Eddie.
And the way No Way Home makes the same over-addition of quote-unquote new characters work is by very specifically positioning them around emotional components that already exist. For example, the whole thing with Peter saving the villains from dying. We shouldn't care about that, because the stakes of the villains dying don't get established. They kinda just say it.
I was about to die.
Okay, whatever you say.
But the reason we can care is because those specific stakes have already been established. Like, yes, these people do in fact die in those earlier movies. We've seen it happen. If Peter doesn't find a way to help them, he is indeed 100% sending them to die. It is a sort of a big deal. Whereas if the movie instead invented something entirely new, like, oh, the dimensional travel will make the villains explode or whatever, that would have to be properly established for anyone to care. As another example of this, take a look at Andrew and MJ here. There's no relationship built between them. There's nothing to make us care about their connection. So when Andrew saves her from falling at the end, we shouldn't care, right? Well, again, the reason we can care is because this moment is very specifically built on the moment in the other movie where Andrew failed to save Gwen Stacy.
Gwen!
It's not about Andrew saving MJ here, it's about Andrew saving MJ as a proxy of Gwen. There's a pre-existing emotional component underneath this moment that infuses it with meaning on both sides of the screen. Or as a Tobey example, look at how Peter is consumed by rage at the end after what the Goblin took from him, and then it's Tobey helping him not to give in to that rage. The movie has done nothing to earn Tobey's role as this voice of reason, but again, it doesn't have to, because it's something we've already seen him earn. We've seen Tobey go through the painful journey of rage. We're already aware of the underlying emotion that makes this a meaningful topic to him and by extension to us.
You know what it feels like? The power. Everything. But you'll lose yourself.
The point I'm getting at is that in order for the audience to invest in added characters, there has to be something underneath what they do and what's done to them. And the only reason No Way Home doesn't have to spend time building that is because it knowingly operates in areas where it already exists. Instead of giving Doc Ock a new motivation, it just resets the one we already know.
Power of the sun in the palm of my hand. It's gone.
Instead of inventing a new curse to help the villains with, it just reuses the ones we already understand.
Norman's on sabbatical.
Doesn't mean the movie couldn't have done something new. It would have been applaudable if it, for example, took a weaker villain like Sandman or Lizard and developed them into something better. But the point is that it didn't have to. It was able to bring in all these villains in a way that functioned. It only had to spend a little bit of time to do something more with the one that was already the best of them.
I'm gonna fix you.
And then it just let nostalgia do the rest.
I fell into a vat of electric eels.
I fell into a super collider.
Wait a minute. I never liked that stuff in the first place. Am I just being swindled by nostalgia? No, I like what I'm watching.
I have a daughter, and I want to see her.
And the lesson you want to take is that if you're making a sequel, you can add in characters with limited time by positioning them as extensions and representations of what the audience has already invested in, be that the hero's past mistakes or journeys. Spider-Man 3 already had Sandman covered on Tobey's side by making him be Uncle Ben's killer. It was a bit of a story convenience, yeah, but point is that there was already enough there for us to immediately partake in Tobey's mission of revenge.
Remember Ben Parker? I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
So if the movie had only gotten rid of Eddie Brock, for example, and instead spent that time on Sandman's side with the daughter and whatever, it could have been something great. As one last perfect metaphor for what I'm trying to say, there's a line in No Way Home that's really entertaining, not because of anything the movie itself does with it, but simply because the audience has a pre-existing reason to be entertained by it.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself. You know, I'm something.
And that's essentially the way to think when adding many new characters and relationships with limited time. The third key issue in Spider-Man 3 is the lack of escalation, which makes it feel more like Spider-Man 1.5. If you look at Tobey's journey in it, it's not really a step further from last time, but rather a step below it. You know, this time a lot of his problems are so easy that they get handled for the next 50 minutes on first try, just like that.
I know he can't remember the accident or anything that happened to him recently.
That was easy.
This time he's facing a lot of the same challenges, like having trouble with MJ again and looking for his uncle's killer again.
Something very familiar about all this.
This time he gains amazing abilities,
which on concept level is great and definitely sold the movie, but
without really having to pay for them. Like he hits his girlfriend and then gets her back half an hour later. He loses his best friend who he already lost, and this way at least gets to share a nice goodbye. Overall, Tobey's life is mostly so fun and great that the whole thing feels more like a prologue spin-off.
They love me.
And even though No Way Home does revisit stuff from before like we talked about, it's still clearly a next step for Peter compared to his previous movies. His problems, for example, are much tougher and deeper under the skin than before. Immediately he has to deal with the consequences left by Mysterio, with half the population shunning not only him but also his friends, to the point where their lives are suffering because of his mistakes.
You guys didn't get in?
Which doesn't just go away in one scene. He's turning to magic to fix it. He has to fight a main villain from another movie to even earn a shot at fixing it. And then the magic spell he messed up pulls in all these villains that he feels responsibility to save, which requires him to fend off Doctor Strange one-on-one, as well as to surround himself with the deadly villains until it bites him in the back. And then he has to keep himself from murdering the guy who took away what meant the most to him. A guy that isn't made of sand and will actually die when killed. Clearly, Peter's problems have leveled up and matured along with him. Whereas a lot of the problems and challenges themselves are also unlike those in the past. The multiverse, for example, opens up a whole new can of possibilities. Combining Peter with real magical elements, forcing him to fight antagonists from earlier iterations, having him learn to work as a team with other Spider-Men from the past. We've never seen that stuff in any Spider-Man or even comic book movie before. So clearly this movie is doing a lot of new things to earn its existence in audiences' eyes. And perhaps most importantly, the prices Peter has to pay are much higher than previously. For example, when he's rounded up all the villains to be sent back, Aunt May convinces him to help them instead.
This is what we do. We help people.
And so he does. He tries his absolute hardest to do the right thing. And what does he get in return? Well, he loses that which no movie Peter Parker has ever lost.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
The loss of Aunt May on its own already hurts a ton because it comes so unfairly from such good intentions, which always stings more than losses that are earned. But there's also the fact that Aunt May isn't supposed to die. I mean, she's been in all these movies and it's never happened. So clearly we've now entered uncharted emotional territory.
May, what are you doing? May, please, will you just wake up and talk to me, please?
Or take the ending where Peter is ready to fix things by having Strange cast a spell that undoes the one he messed up, which comes at the cost of nobody remembering him anymore. Or in other words, him having nobody.
My name is Peter Parker.
Whether you have issues with the logic in all this or not, the main thing is that we've never had to pay such a price in a Spider-Man movie in the past. We've never felt loss and loneliness of this size with Peter Parker before. We're on a whole new level in terms of that. And I guess the point I'm getting at with all this is that No Way Home feels bigger than at least the two movies before it. And the key word is feel. Sequels don't necessarily have to be bigger, but they do have to feel that way, because otherwise, what's the point? If a sequel feels less than its predecessor, then it's not really a step forward but rather diagonally backwards. It's not a sequel as much as it is a less valuable spin-off. And whether you personally like Spider-Man 3 or not, fact is that No Way Home escalates things a lot more to truly earn its place as a third movie in the trilogy.
Norman was right. He got it from you. That pathetic sickness.
Now, I'm gonna fix you.
So with all that and the earlier stuff having been said, I think the key deep philosophical lesson on why No Way Home succeeds where Spider-Man 3 failed is this. Spider-Man 3 does some things well, No Way Home does other more meaningful things a lot better. That's it. See ya, chump.